Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma231 here, back in data, weekly Shonen Jump, issue number 27 of 2025. And to those of you who are watching this video on the date of release, you guys may be noticing something. Yes, this video is over a week late. I was doing very good there for a good while, like talking about the weekly Shonen Jump issues right as they are coming out. I was doing really good, and then I just, didn't feel like talking about this issue weekly Shonen Jump. Don't get me wrong, I definitely tried. I mean, I recorded about a 25-minute portion of this video to just where I got through Sid Craft, and I'm like, I don't really like how this is going. It's going to be an even longer. I actually think it was close to 35 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. I think 25 was after I'd gone through and already edited out some pauses and breaks I had in that video. And I'm like, I'm not just really liking how this video is going so far, so I'm like, let me just go ahead and redo the video at a later time. And now that later time is a week later after when I wanted to put this video up initially, but hey, it sort of is what it is there. We're going to be caught back up on track soon. It's just one of these things where it's really hard when I cover a lot of series that happen every single week to where it's like, oh no, if I miss a week, I'm not doing pretty good. And I hate to say it, but I'm not always good at getting all of those weeks on track pretty much, right? But sort of is what it is there. But another thing you guys may be noticing, oh wow, that's weird, is hey, look at this. I have finally decided to put chapter numbers next to all the various chapters I am talking about. It's something that I've needed to be doing for a very long time. I mean, I've been talking about Weekly Shonen Jump since I think issue 29. I don't have it listed here, but it was the issue where Martial Master Sumi started, and I've never once put chapter numbers in this. And I mean, just for your guys' information, I'm not going to be putting chapter numbers behind this, going back and okay, this was Ichi to Witch number 35, let me put there. No, we're still just going to be leaving it as Ichi to Witch all the way through here. But for the sake of you guys, since if you are knowing what chapter I'm talking about, we're going to have it laid out hey, Kagurabachi 81, One Piece 1150. It's just going to be a sort of quality of life thing that is going to be not only helping me out talk about these chapters and sort of explain them better into context. If you guys know what chapter I'm talking about, don't have to go to the Weekly Shonen Jump wiki. I mean, I love this website. I have it even bookmarked down here just because it's so helpful sometimes. But it's oh yeah, look at this Weekly Shonen Jump issues, and just scroll down. Okay, here are the 2025 covers. Oh no, I gotta go find issue 27, and let me see what Kagurabachi chapter was here this week. Oh man, where's Kagurabachi? Oh well, it's number 81. It's just going to be a whole lot easier if I just come over here and say hey, Kagurabachi 81. That's the chapter we're talking about. So it's really all the quality of life stuff, really. If you guys don't know how this video series works, it's just me going through and talking about all the various series I read on Weekly Shonen Jump this week. This week is actually a very small week, all things considered, with only, 13 series, if I'm not mistaken. Mainly due to the fact that we do not have any blue box this week, and of course, Ruri Dragon is on this sort of longer hiatus. And also, a little bit of another interesting note is that Super Psychic Policeman Shoujo ended this week. Or no, is that next week at the recording of this video? So at the recording of this video, like I said, I'm behind an issue. I think it ended in issue number 28, so my bad. Don't take my word on that whatsoever, right? But we're going to be getting some new series in Shonen Jump starting here pretty soon, right? But yeah, really follow that away. Like I said, I'm just going to be going through, rambling about all 13 of these series, and then ranking them at the end of the video from I thought my favorite chapter of the week was, all the way down to my least favorite chapter, all of the 11 spots in between, and also picking my favorite character of the week for hey, who did I think had a pretty cool showing? And yeah, that's just really how that series works. And being that I've already talked about a good amount of these chapters at a few times, I do a Kagurabachi chapter review series weekly, and also I've already talked about a few of these in that video that will never be released, that was me talking about these chapters for way too long. Well, we're also just going to be blazing through a lot of these chapters, because while I did think this was a good issue of Jump, I did just have a few issues with it in general, and I think it's one of the reasons why I didn't feel like talking about it until a week later, if you guys know what I'm saying. But of course, hopping into it with Kagurabachi 81, this is a chapter focusing mainly on Hakurei, as he is sort of running on his own through the general Kabunagi headquarters, pretty much running around dodging all these evil sorcerers, and eventually he runs into a group of sorcerers who are pretty much standing in a general area, and we meet somebody named Mr. Kashima there, right? And we learn that this guy Kashima is pretty much Kudo's direct underling, pretty much, or Kudo's number one guy, pretty much. This is how to Totopole. If we're talking in the Bleach terms, which we can all admit it, Kagurabachi is just a cooler Bleach in a way. I say that, I love Bleach, I absolutely think that series is amazing, but it's just a evolution on the Bleach storytelling in a way, and sort of in the way it works, Kashima is the lieutenant to the captain who is Kudo, right? That's how we describe manga here. But pretty much there's this really interesting moment where, like, there's an announcement saying, like, hey guys, every 1 in 10 of the people in the Kabanagi headquarters is a traitor of some kind, so be wary about everybody you're going around. Oh no, it seems like Kudo is still alive, and then we get told that Kudo is dead later in this chapter, and it's pretty much a whole thing where Kashima just says, like, hey, Hawker, you go run, you do your thing, and we eventually see a few other sorcerers who sort of appear and start attacking. They were previously part of the Kabanagi, but it seems like they are actually part of the Hishaku troops, maybe because, like, hostages or some sort of way, we don't really know, or maybe they've just been long-term infiltrators. Either way, Hawkeye tries to run, and as Hawkeye tries to run, it's one of these things where, like, oh no, how is he going to be getting out of this alive? And the big reveal of this chapter is, hey, look at that, Oruha is back. He is back here using the EI White Purity style, coming through, and yeah, he saves Hawkeye here in a moment, and the whole idea of the rest of the chapter is like, hey, come with me, Hawkeye, we're going to go do all this various stuff, and Hawkeye's like, oh my gosh, you're the real Aruha, it's so amazing, right? But that's really all there is to this chapter of Kagurabachi number 81 again, so really, like I said, I had a longer video up on this chapter of Kagurabachi, so if you want to hear my full thoughts on it, I thought this was a really, really good chapter, so go check out that video. It'll be linked in the description box down below in some sort of shape or form, probably just a general Kagurabachi playlist, you know? But yeah, I thought Kagurabachi was pretty good this week, and with that, we're going to move on to another very interesting chapter, in my opinion, which was One Piece 1150. So, pretty much here we get the whole idea that Gunko is getting taken over by Emu, and I really love how Gunko's design evolves in this sort of sequence, as we get this whole idea that, like, Gunko grows, like, devil wings behind her, grows out like a demon spade tail, and like even gets like this massive trident thing. And also probably my favorite like detail is how Gunko's hair grows out. I just think it's a really cool visual, and I've always liked Gunko's character design. I think this really does a lot to be like, oh wow, that's very interesting, right? And one of the bigger ideas in this chapter is pretty much all of the various giants, Dory and Broggy, are trying to come around and get rid of all of the Holy Knights here in the area, which of course includes Gunko. And all of this is going on. We see that Gunko, or more aptly, I guess, Emu, using all of this power, summons a literal demon shotgun out of a book. Like, I don't know how that works, but it's pretty cool, right? It pretty much comes through, shoots off either Dory or Broggy's hand. I think this is Dory, if I'm not mistaken. Shoots off his hand, and then turns him into a demon himself, pretty much, right? And, like, flips him over around, and they even call it the Diabolical Covenant. And I should also say, like, this chapter is titled Domni Reversi, which is this whole idea of, like, reversing their personalities. It's a really interesting thing. It's like, oh no, Dory and Broggy have both been, like, turned into this whole idea of, like, oh no, they're, like, demon devil guys now. And the whole idea is like, hey, this is the power of Elbaf, is these giants' powers. Like, it will not be destroyed, but will be preserved and ruled over. Perhaps it's time to stay and watch to see how useful they will be in the war. And this is everything that Emu is sort of saying and thinking from Gunko's body. And the end of the chapter is this whole idea of like, oh no, Dory and Broggy and all of these other giants are heading towards the general village, and oh no, Keith Jarul is there, and they're like, Jarul, you need to get out of here. But Jarul thinks it's time for him to stand his ground. And that's where we end this chapter of One Piece. Now, my one bigger complaint with this chapter of One Piece is that it seems like the end-game villains of One Piece. Of course, we're going to have the whole tussle with the Blackbeard pirates to get onto Raftel or Laugh-Tail, whatever that island's called at this point. But the whole idea of like, okay, does that mean like our other final big bad guys in the world government are going to be demons? Like, I think that's pretty interesting, but on the other hand, it's like, I don't really know if I like this trope either of like, oh yes, the big bad guys are just demons at the end of the day. It's like, oh man, look at that. Like, I don't know, it's just one of these things, like, I think One Piece is still an amazing series, and I don't think this distracts from anything whatsoever, but I just don't know if I particularly like this storytelling instrument all the way through here, but I think just time will tell to see how it all sort of plays out, and hey, I absolutely love Gunko's new design. I thought One Piece was a decent enough chapter this week. Was it the best out there? No, but it wasn't the worst either, right? Ichi the Witch is a very interesting chapter where we really just see, I should also say this is Ichi the Witch chapter number 36. I need to remember to do this, right? But pretty much here we see Gokuraku is really struggling against all of the issues of like, oh no, the sorrowful hatred magic or whatever he's called is like controlling his body, and it's not very good, right? And it's this whole thing to where as Gokuraku's going through here, he's continuously using his power to pretty much go through and like using all these synchro rates of like 50, 60, 70, 80, 90%, and as all this is happening, we see there's like a bunch of like technical like cyborg like parts ripping out of Gokuraku's stomach, his arms, and all this various areas, pretty much showing like, oh man, Gokuraku is barely even a human anymore, right? And that's even what the Joyful Sorrow magic says, is like, oh, look at that, I knew it, he isn't even human anymore, right? But of course, Ichi has him trapped with the Origumo magic right now, and Gokuraku is just struggling with all of this, right? He just says, like, hey, did he say that he'd augmented himself to fight all the magics? But I didn't think it'd be by this much. I knew something was off with him. How can he handle so much sorrow than a normal human? Oh, it's just simple. Because much left of him isn't even human. He's just a mechanical monstrosity, right? And all of this is pretty much going on in the Joyful Sorrow magic. It's just, like, building up this whole idea of, like, yes, I am an evil guy. I want you to punch me, pretty much, right? And eventually, we see that Ichi goes over, throws his knife at the Joyful Sorrow magic, pretty much getting him to shut up as he just, like, stabs him in the jugular. And Ichi's like, hey, don't you dare insult my friend again. And the Joyful Sorrow's magic is like, oh, what is all of that, pretty much, right? But Gokuraku just stands up in the moment, and Ichi's like, hey, like, don't punch me, pretty much, like, Bakugami is your prey here. And we see that Gokuraku, like, goes and gets ready to, like, rear up his fist, as we go and do a little bit of a flashback, where we get this whole idea of Ichi asking Gokuraku what family is. And pretty much, I really love the analogy that Gokuraku uses here, because he pretty much is like, hey, for me, family is like a big, sturdy stake. You stick it in the ground right next to you, and it's always there whenever you need to lean on it. Like, hey, if I'm tired or if I'm hurting, that pole is always there to support me. Even if I fall flat onto my face, with that stake there, I can always pull myself back up again. So to me, family is like that stake. You can't ever break it, and you can't even rip it out. You can also never let that stake go. It's a really, really precious thing. And I really love the other moment we get here of just seeing Gokuraku's hands sitting on the stake. And we also then transport it over. And instead of put his hands on the stake, we just see his hands in front of his sister and, of course, his mother and father. This whole idea of family. And, of course, in this dark abyss where Gokuraku is dealing with all the sorrow from the magic, he just sort of realizes, like, wait a second. Family is something you can't ever let go. And we see that he reaches out for that almost like spirit orb there with him. And in the present, it looks like Gokuraku's getting ready. He's rearing a fist up behind him. All of these mechanical parts are like exploding out of his side. And it looks like he's getting ready to come in and pummel Ichi. But instead, he just punches the ground. He picks up Ichi and runs over to a flag with the word of joy on it, right? And as Gokuraku is standing here, he just says like, hey, 10 years. No matter how much I hurt, how much I suffered, I often puked up blood. And that was my pain. I didn't give it away. I swallowed it, keeping it to myself. That stake has supported me countless times. It can't break, and it can never come out. I'll never let it go. I refuse to let you take any more away from us. My name is Gokuraku Kagami, and I'm the first prince of the country of Kagami. You will toy with the hearts and souls of my people no longer. I'm taking them back. Bakugami! And that's where we end off this chapter on this really awesome moment of Gokuraku out of this sorrowful mode, pretty much. And he's pretty much telling Bakugami, here's to what for, you're getting pummeled next chapter. And what can I say? This is just a really cool moment. I just love the whole idea of like, oh man, Gokuraku's a robot. He's just going through all this stuff. It's just a really awesome moment. Also, I need to mention the whole idea of like, hey, each of which had the color page of the magazine this week. It had the cover and the central color page, which was really cool because we like got this really interesting thing where it's like, oh, hey, look at this. We see Descaros, we see Kumagi, we see Ichi, and of course, our fourth main character, of course, or the fourth like main guy in the team, who will be Gokuraku, right? Pretty cool to see all that stuff, all things considered. And Ichi to which was just a really awesome chapter. I mean, just like, what else can I say? It's just, it was good. I like Gokuraku Kagami. He's pretty neat, you know? Kill Blue is up next, and really just to put it, this was the chapter where I fully realized, like, oh, wait a second. Kill Blue is just Assassination Classroom for this arc, because it's like, the cover page we get here is two of the Whole Met Clubs, and like two of the Whole Met Club girls in these like completely black dresses, and both of them are just holding pistols in their hands, and one of them is just like pointing it at the screen. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, oh yes, I remember manga that have children holding guns and making it seem really cool now. I remember how that works, right? But pretty much the whole idea here is that, like, we see that one of the other military club teams has pretty much put advanced airsoft guns in the battle competition ring here. And, of course, this makes a few of the Home Ec girls a little cocky, pretty much. And also Nadeshiko, who is the one of the people on the student council team, pretty much has two of these things, and she's dual-wielding them, pretty much. And we see that Chitatsu ends up sort of, like, sacrificing herself so Norin and one of these other girls can get away at the end of the day. And I really love how it's sort of treated like, oh no, it seems like she's died in a war thing. No, she's been hit with like a few airsoft bullets and like, she'll be fine in like 24 hours or something. But it's really funny how they're like, no, Chitatsu, like, Norin, don't look back. We must run away from this grand catastrophe, right? And I love how the Justice guy's like, dude, they're just BB guns, like, calm your britches, like, you know, like, it's not that big of a deal at the end of the day. But it's really funny how it is portrayed here. And the end of the chapter is this whole idea of like, hey guys, it may be looking bad for us, but it's not over yet, as we pretty much see that Shin and one of the other people are talking, and Shin's like, hey, it'll be fine, Norin is still out there, right? And like, hey, out of all of the people, she has the potential to become a great assassin. Oh my gosh, is she just Nagisa from the Assassination Classroom? Oh my gosh, that's crazy, right? I thought this was a very good chapter for Kill Blue, though, and I really love how we're getting, like, a longer, very big, expanded thing on this arc of, like, hey, the Student Council versus the Whole Met Club. I really love how it's getting built up here in this moment. I liked Kill Blue this week. I know it's a little bit of a weird thing to say, but I just did like it, you know? Well, next up is Sidcraft Love is a Mystery, chapter number 26, and this chapter's like, oh no guys, this series is definitely ending because literally all of the mysteries and everything in this series finally gets massively revealed here, right? As pretty much we start with this chapter a little bit of a flashback, as we just see like, hey, this is everything that happened in the past. Oh man, there's this game named Souffle Primrose. I wonder who she could be. Oh no, Souffle Flamberry? I don't believe it, right? Oh wow, Sid Craft is here too, and their best friend, Toby Rex. Oh man, I wonder who this Toby guy turns out to be, right? And pretty much this chapter is just going through, and eventually we see that, like, okay, Toby was friends with these two, and he was happy to forsake his own happiness if it means that both Souffle and Sid were able to be happy together, pretty much, right? As we get this really big idea of, like, Toby's parents telling him, like, hey, son, like, love is the most precious thing in the world. Like, we can do anything if it's for somebody you love, Toby, right? And this whole idea sort of builds up in Toby's mind, as eventually we see the whole idea is, oh no, Toby's parents were like cooking meth or something in their garage and they got arrested, right? And oh no, who cracked this case? Oh, well, it was none other than young detective Sid Craft. And also, well, Sid Craft can't be the one to go and like pick him up and like take him to jail, so who was it? Oh, it was Souffle's parents, the Primrose family. Oh no, what happened to them? They're dead. And Toby really blames all this, not only his mother and father getting taken away, but also the death of Souffle's parents. He blames it all on Sidcraft, pretty much. And this really, like, breaks him whenever, like, he sees Souffle crying for her parents, just, like, crawling for Sid to come over to help her, pretty much, right? And Toby's like, hey, forget it, Souffle, you didn't see anything here, right? And it's this whole idea to where also for the murder of Souffle's parents, it got blamed on a young Elio, which is the whole idea of like, this is when Elio was saved by Sidcraft, and it's like, okay, sure, what can I say now, but then like, maybe I believe you in this whole idea, right? And pretty much as all of this is going on, Sid's just like, oh no, what have I done here? Like, Souffle, like, I'm so sorry, like, I avenged your parents, I caught the murder, what good does it do? Solving the case won't bring back everything that's locked. Oh no, you guys remember that Sidcraft doesn't like dogs. Oh, it seems like Toby had a bunch of, like, wolves and bad dogs with him getting ready to hunt down Sid Craft, and Toby does all of these things like, hey, you've got a one strong sense of justice, like solving 2 cases in one night, like, good job, but you stole out my mom and dad. Sid, it's your fault Souffle's parents are dead. Da-da-da-da-da-da. We then come back to the present, where it's this whole idea of, like, oh no, Souffle is tied up in the background of this, like, prison chapel thing, while Xcraft, who is also we now know as Toby, is here in the various thing. Let me also, like, mute Discord real quick. And let me actually just, like, close out Discord in general so I just, like, don't get distracted by it here, because I'm sure with the message I just saw, it's going to be a longer conversation on one of my servers, so we're just going to completely close it out and talk about manga. But it's this whole thing to where Souffle pretty much puts two and two together, like, she couldn't have been the one who really orchestrated all of those cases to Zero Craft, because, like, oh no, there was the whole scissor leg guy deal, and, like, he would have recognized her whenever they came in to solve that case. Same with some of the people on the Alfyn and all this other various things, and also the alibi they got last time that pretty much told her, like, oh man, or the guy who was trying to murder Elio with the whole idea of, like, oh man, that blonde inspector with the ribbon on her chest. She wouldn't have been wearing that back all the way back then. She would have been wearing her, like, general trench coat, so it's sort of like, okay, that's all these cases don't really line up with each other. And the whole idea is it's like, oh man, look at this. Souffle is putting two and two together. And really, Toby says, like, you may be right, but the whole idea is you still killed Sid Craft, like, he's dead. You still have to regret and repent for that, pretty much, right? And the whole idea is Souffle is like, that's right, I did do that. And we see a little bit of a reflection in her eye, where, oh boy, we see Sid Craft behind Toby, and Sid just comes in like, hey, don't kill me off now, Toby. Pretty much like an elbow smashes him in the head, Toby falls to the ground. Oh man, Sid Craft is here, Souffle is crying, it's such an amazing thing, they're back together again. And Sid pretty much explains like, hey, I got like a bunch of like iron plate under my clothes and like ketchup packets to make it look like you stabbed me pretty much, and like, I was pretty much well prepared because I'd put, like, I'm a good detective. I put two and two together pretty much, you know what I'm saying? But all of that's pretty much going on, and it's this whole idea that eventually we're like, hey, Lulu's also here. Elio's brought everybody else to come help fight everybody. Oh man, Hakua's here too. Like, everybody's here to pretty much save the day. And inside of this chapel, it's pretty much just like, oh no, Sid Craft is getting ready to fight with Toby, while Souffle is still tied up in the background. You gotta love manga sometimes, you know? This was a crazy, stupid chapter of Sid Craft. Like, what can I really say? Did I find some joy out of it? Yes, but, like, it's such a, like, a cluster of a mess, but I don't know. Some part of me still just says, like, guys, this is honestly a good way to end off this series, having everybody here together, saving the day at the end of the day. It looks like Souffle is going to win, but sort of just is how it is. This is a fine chapter of Sid Craft, right? Order of the Flame is up next. Again, Order of the Flame, chapter number 4. And really the whole idea of this chapter is building up to the idea of, hey, here is the power system that we're going to be using in this series of Order of the Flame, pretty much, right? Pretty much to build up there, we had this bigger battle between 610 and Oder. Pretty much, Oder's not using his spirit Filja, but we understand that Filja's whole goal this entire time was just, like, heating up bathwater for 610 to use, just to, like, be helpful a little bit, and to this and all this agreement, pretty much 610's like, hey, I'll train you, kid, pretty much, and eventually as all of this goes on, we eventually see that, I forget what her name is, Etupirko is what her name is. I don't know how I could forgot that. I mean, it's only like a name I've only read one other time in my life, pretty much, right? But eventually it's this whole idea of we need to use your heroic vigor, pretty much, right? And Sixten explains this is like, hey, the secret techniques of strengthening one's body, I'll teach you how to use heroic vigor. And, like, Older's like, oh, heroic vigor? And Sixten's like, hey, well, it's this thing in your body. It's like, hey, Etupirko, can you explain it? And we see that Etupirko just says, like, hey, just don't give up on all that, right? But pretty much she says, like, hey, sorcerers utilize magical power from nature. So in order to fight against that, warriors utilize vital energy within themselves. We call that power heroic vigor. If you can manage to control it, you'll be able to invigorate your body and turn it into something that not even magic can defeat. You can make your skin harder than stone and your limbs lighter than a baby deer's. It should be able to make you withstand your spirit's power as well, is what I believe at least, right? The whole idea is like, hey, it also makes it harder to cut yourself while shaving. Thank you, Sixten, for bringing in some very crucial information here, right? But the way this is pretty much explained is we see that Etupirko takes off her shoes, pretty much gets out of their bare feet. I know some people in the manga community are probably like, oh my gosh, but it's sort of like, okay, is what it is. And we see that she also sits up a stake on the ground, and pretty much that, like, middle, like, very squishy, like, vulnerable part of your foot, she stands on this spike with that part of her foot, sort of really, like, understanding of, like, yes, make your skin harder than stone, and also your entire body lighter than a baby deer's, because it also has to be, like, very hard to, like, balance on that, you know what I'm saying? But I just really fine chapter of Oder. It wasn't my favorite chapter that we've had so far, but it also sort of, like just gets the point across of like, oh yes, this is what heroic vigor is. This is going to probably be our main power source in the series. So for the 4th chapter of the series, I can't really complain, you know? Embers number 17 is up next, and of course, we have this game between Kotobayashi and Kosei affiliated right now. And of course, Yuzen Nerima just took the field. And pretty much this chapter is really portrayed from the idea of Yuzen Nerima, as he's like, hey, it only ever goes one way from here. The net swishes with another easy goal, the crowd claps politely, fighting back yawns as the familiar routine plays out again. On the field, the opponent collapses to their knees with their spirits broken. It's the same old, same old. Nothing different happens. Nothing special. And of course, it seems like this game is going to be a little bit different for Yuzen Nerima, because of course our main character of Haitani is here. And it's this whole idea where both Haitani and Yuzen Nerima have this little bit of like a conversation on the field, and they're pretty much going back and forth doing all this stuff and having a few talks, all things considered around here. And oh no, it seems like Yuzen Nerima, or I just need to call him Nerima, not Yuzen Nerima. I don't need to use both his names the entire time like the main character, the main female lead, Kikoru says in like Kaiju number 8, oh, Kafka Habino. I don't need to be like Yuzen Nerima. Nerima, pretty much, we see that he's getting ready to make a goal, and it's like, hey, we're supposed to easily just make it in here just like that, and he pretty much kicks it in. Oh no, Haitani comes in to save the day, kicking the ball out of the way pretty much. As we see that this is really what's going on here, is it's like, oh hey, Nerima is making all of these movements here in the moment, and like, oh no, it looks like he's going to be able to beat. And we get this whole idea of, again, Haitani is the person who starts his move after the fact, but still finishes his move first. That's Noboru Haitani. To you, Nerima, he's unexpected. As pretty much that's like the big thing of this chapter is we just see like, yeah, Nerima has this really big rival in Haitani to deal with. Is just like, hey, he's used to everybody playing out, the game's playing out in the same exact way, going through all of this. But hey, somebody is just a bit different than what he's expecting. And the very end of the chapter is we see Takami's like, hey, all I do is, like, I see everything going on over there. Like, nothing I have beats Haitani. I won't get any new weapons either. And if that's the case, why don't I try throwing something away from once? The one biggest, stupidest thing that I've clung on to. And that's where we end this chapter of Embers, with this moment of like, hey guys, remember we had a dude Arachnus in this series? It seems like he may be doing something coming up here pretty soon, you know? I like this chapter of Embers. It's really sad that, like, it does seem like this series is ending, and I mean, we know that we have 4 new series starting in Weekly Shonen Jump. I mean, if we look over, we're going to have new series going on all the way till issue number 32, which means that at most, Embers is probably going to be going. I mean, like I said, we know that Shoujo ended in issue number 28 to prepare for a new series in issue 29. I'm guessing in issue 29, Sidcraft is probably going to end. Like I said, new chapters are out yet, but I haven't read what came out in 28. So Sidcraft will probably end, and then I'm expecting Embers and the Star of Beethoven to end in that sort of general order. Unless it's like, oh man, Star of Beethoven can wrap it up, one chapter shorter, and then Embers gets another extension. But at this point, we have like 3 more chapters of Embers, in my opinion, or possibly a 4th. Like, I just don't really see these series really sticking around for too much longer, which really does suck, but I do just like how Embers is sort of being portrayed here, and I thought this was a fine enough 17th chapter, right? Star of Beethoven, like I said, it's a little bit weird because we are getting to the end of the series. I mean, by the end of this chapter, we have this whole idea of like, hey guys, remember the whole Rorero festival that we were sort of getting built up to? Well, it's finally here now, and it's also really weird because we had this whole idea of, hey, Beethoven and Isso are finally sort of like connected again. Both Lexi and Marcia had brought them together to pretty much talk them over with some other stuff. And it's this whole idea of where, like, there's a lot of just, like, conversation about, like, pianists are just really, really weird. Like, what's up with them? They're, like, so weird and interesting. Like, oh my gosh, pianists are, like, this wild breed of human that nobody's ever seen before, right? I mean, this chapter is even called, like, number 16, The Tribe of Pianists. Like, I really wish we could get more of this series, because I just, like, love laughing my ass off about it, because it's so weird. But really the whole idea is, like, he's like, guy, I don't even like piano that much, and, like, there's always been one in front of me since the moment I was born. Like, I grew up thinking, like, just playing the piano was just, like, a normal part of being human. But, like, even after stepping away from it, I really couldn't imagine my life without the piano. The reason I was drawn because of how my master played, it was because I envied his playing. But I just don't know if you can, like, relate to everything I'm saying here, right? Beethoven's like, hey, I can. You and I are really quite alike. I was born to a middle-class musical family and told to become a great musician from my grandfather, right? Sometimes I would play the piano in tears after my drunken father dragged me out of bed in the middle of the night. And it's Beethoven's like, hey, so, do you have a lover? And he's just like, Beethoven, like, what are you talking about here, right? And he's like, oh, is there a girl you love? And he's like, I'm not sure why it matters, but no, there's not really in this moment, right? And Beethoven just says, like, hey, when you truly love someone, they become a part of you. And that's how I feel about music. Like, hey, whenever I lost my ability to hear, I sank into despair, and it was at brink of ending it all. The only thing to stop me was that inexorable sense that there was still music that I needed to write. It was music that nearly killed me, and music that saved my life. My feelings for music transcend fleeting emotions such as joy and hate, for that is a way of love. It's a part of us and muse that will destroy us. What is your goal in life, Yaso? What do you hold dear? What is it you strive for? And Yaso really has to think about all of this, like, because Beethoven really just went like a big rant of like, hey, what do you want to do with your life, kid? Like, if you don't want to play piano, don't do it, pretty much, right? And Yaso really just thinks about, like, man, that's like a good question. Like, what is my goal? And Yaso just says, like, well, right now, I think it's to become the best pianist who can play the music of Beethoven even better than Beethoven himself. And I love how in the background we see that both Lexi and Marcia, especially Marcia, is just cracking up at hearing Yaso say this, right? And she's just like laughing like, like, I'm sorry, right? But even Lexi's like, hey, I can even tell that was ridiculous, you know what I'm saying? But this whole idea where Yaso just says like, I'm sorry, that was probably a really weird thing to say. But Beethoven is just like, well, I mean it was, but are you sincere? And Yaso's like, I mean, yeah, I didn't say it as a joke or on a whim or anything. You were just the impetus for the piano coming back into my life, and now I want to surpass you. As the narration just continues, Beethoven's like, oh, I see. As the narration just says like, hey, Beethoven probably isn't aware of this, but thanks to him, the 200 years since his debut, countless composers have given up writing music, and countless pianists have faded into the shadows of history. 100 years ago, the greatest pianist in contemporary Japan went to Vienna. When he realized his level of talent didn't impress the rest of the world, he threw himself off his roof of the hotel. The love of Beethoven has cast a dark, bloodstained shadow, and within that shadow, one young Japanese man now stands full of respect and devotion for the man before himself. As Beethoven just says like, hey, Ichiro Yaso, if that's your goal, then pursue it and achieve it. Even if you are mocked as a fool, you must follow the star. I see one and only within you. Take the challenges you will need and master and reach it. Prove to me that you are committed to your ideals by a young pianist of the future, pretty much, right? And we also see that both Lexi and Marcia are now sort of like walking away from this whole idea. As the idea of like, hey, when it comes to dealing with Beethoven and the Ring, there's an extremist faction, a more moderate faction, and like all of this are various stuff. And eventually the whole idea is like, hey, are you even listening to me, Lexi? And he's like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm honestly thinking about how scary pianists are in the wild. And like, oh yes, that they are. I do hope those two don't stir up trouble. But, and that's where we sort of leave off that thing. I saw a lot of takes online, the whole idea of like, hey, are you guys even listening to the series? And the whole idea of like, no, nobody cares, that's why the series is getting canceled. It's a little bit of like, is that a meta commentary moment? Or is this like, this plot line is not going to be expanded upon just because we want to focus more on the piano also? It's one of these interesting things. They get back to Ichiro's hotel, or not hotel, but his flat, pretty much. It's completely destroyed by Beethoven, and we eventually see that Ichiro goes over and sees the star ornament that, of course, sits on his desk. He sort of, like, looks at it and just like, oh yeah, I see it. Now I can see the star to master. And he sort of like puts it down. The whole idea is like, hey, will you help me train Beethoven? And Beethoven's like, of course I will. And we then cut to the Rorero Festival opening day. And that's where we end this chapter of Star of Beethoven, number 16. And it's one of these things where like, oh man, it feels really good. We're sort of moving on from this series. I really love the plot line that we got here for the whole idea of like, oh man, cutting back and forth, seeing all of the oh gosh, what is it called? This plotline of like, the necromancer stuff. Even though it does seem like it's now going to be dropped, I still did like seeing it for the little time we had it. I did enjoy Star of Beethoven this week. Maybe not as much as some of the other ones, but I thought it was a fine chapter, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm also going to be a lot sad to see it go, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's sort of what I mean, right? Hematin chapter number 44 is up next. It's honestly crazy this series is on chapter number 44, and hey, I'm really glad that seems to be doing well, because I am decently enjoying it, because of course, this week we get a color page, which is just Kana in a bikini. Manga, you know? But pretty much the whole bigger thing with this chapter is, hey, the school festival is going on here. Also, I didn't mention this, but we also seem to have a updated Hematin logo on the jump, the single page after the color page. So it's like, oh yeah, if this series is doing good enough to also now have its own, what's it called? Its own logo, pretty much, and like, I think we're going to be pretty good with this series. Honestly, I could see this being a series that honestly lasts like another 100 chapters or something or so before ending, because like it doesn't seem to be selling the best, but like it seems like Jump is also trying to give some of these mangaka more experience. Like, yeah, I would love to see Ember sort of stick around, but like there seems to be like, yeah, Hematin, like Ultimate Excess Koshi, they're giving these manga a bit more of a chance now, right? But pretty much we see that Iomori's at school festival pretty much handing out pamphlets and everything, and oh, look at that! We see his sister Makoto has made it over, and also her friend, whose name is Chika, have also come over, right? And pretty much we see that Chika is pretty much come over here because she's also trying to get into whatever school this school is called. I honestly don't remember. Oh, that's probably not a very good thing for this series if I don't remember the school's name. Like, for some reason, I remembered a school name in Bleach. I say that. It's probably just like Kurosaki, or not Kurosaki. What was the town called? Oh gosh. Okay, I can't be thinking about all of this right now. I need to talk about manga, right? But pretty much we have this whole idea where the entire chapter is Iomori's sister Makoto, like, oh man, I want to see Kana, but I also hear there's a bunch of other girls in his life, so I want to meet all of them, right? Eventually, they meet some of these other girls. It's like, oh wow, this is Kanai. She's, a really good friend, of Iomori's. Oh, look at that, and like, oh man, Himari also sees Iomori's sister in the background, but she's sort of like in the background helping with some other stuff, so it's like, oh, she doesn't really want to go up there and sort of meet with everybody, right? And as all of this stuff is going on, there's all of these talks like, hey, we want to go see Kana, and as it sort of implied, yes, this is a Kana chapter, right? And eventually we go over and see Kana, who is pretty much in a cosplay cafe currently, and we see that she's wearing one of those, like, traditional Chinese dresses. I probably name out there for them. I don't know what they're called, but we just see that, oh no, look, Kana's here wearing all this various stuff, and pretty much as all this is going on, oh man, she's going to be in a fashion show, right? But oh no, there's been a little mix-up and everything. She's in the couples division, which means that she needs to find another person to partner with to be able to do it, right? And while it probably wouldn't be able to, like, while it wouldn't be a problem to, like, switch up a few of these things to make it so, like, oh man, I can just be in the singles division, Makoto's like, hey, I really want to see it, and we need to leave here at 1 o'clock, and that division where Kana's going to be going on is happening before we have to go home. So, Iomori, why don't you help Kana out so pretty much we don't have to worry about any of this? And the end of the chapter is Iomori being like, I mean, if I have to. And that's really the whole idea of this chapter. There's some really nice moments between both Kana and Iomori here in this chapter, along with all this various stuff, but I mean, I generally liked it. I didn't think it was a bad chapter whatsoever. And yeah, I'll be interested to see, because, like, Kana's my favorite character in this series, so the more we get to see of her, I'm definitely not complaining in the slightest. Hematin 44 was not a bad chapter at all. Ultimate Excess Kyoshi. This is a Tsurugi chapter. He's pretty much going through, and at the end of the chapter, we see that he ends up going through and beating the first Demon Lord, Tonjinshi. This is also Ultimate Excess Kyoshi, chapter number 46. Let me remember all of that, right? And we also see a little bit of the backstory of Tsurugi here. Pretty much the whole idea is like, oh man, he's just a very kind-hearted person at the end of the day. Like, as much as, like, he seems to be like, oh, I don't care about any of this, we understand he's just a good guy, right? And really, I didn't like this chapter. I mean, he beats Tonjinshi. I didn't really care for Tonjinshi as an antagonist. This backstory really makes me like Tsurugi a little bit less, all things considered, so it's one of these things where I understand why they're giving him backstory. The series does seem like it's going to survive past the Black Parade now, and moving into all this stuff, but it's just one of these things where, like, yeah, I'm having a trouble really touching with both Tsurugi. Like, I still love this series. I think Sosuke has some amazing things. I can't wait to see the battle between Kyoshi and Sasaki and all that other stuff, but, like, yeah, Tsurugi just didn't really do it for me this week. This was not one of my favorite chapters of Ultimate Exorcist Kyoshi by far. Akane Banashi 160 is up next, And hey, this chapter, like, hey, the Zunin Prize preliminary round is starting. We understand that the whole idea is like, hey, for registration, there were 63 total entries, right? And 22 of those guys passed the selection process and made it into the preliminaries, pretty much, right? And out of those 22 contestants, 6 of them will make it to the Zunin Prize final, which will, of course, will be judged by Shomei Tsubakakiya, pretty much, right? So out of all the 22 people here, it's going to be, of course, Akane, Karashi, and Hikaru, plus 3 other guys who are going to be in the main big bout of this, pretty much, right? And we also just, like, see in the general stuff going on with all of this, like, eventually Akane takes the stage. We also don't see how Karashi or Hikaru's performances go. Of course, we are saving them for the bigger event here. But we even see that the news reporter guys is like, man, these two, like, they're absolutely ripping with energy right now. Like, man, they're just doing so good, right? And the whole idea is Akane gets ready to go on. And we pretty much, like, start off that she's just doing her story, right? But of course, she's got the stipulation of she can't make anybody laugh. So she's like, okay, my name is Akane Arakawa. This story is about a word called Shuai. Pretty much going through the story of Shuai that we already know because of Shomei's performance. And as we see her doing it, we see that somebody in the audience is, we really get a focus on just this one guy. That she's getting a little bit bored. We see that he sort of, like, reaches over, uses his finger to, like, rub his eye a little bit. It almost seems like he's getting ready to go to sleep. Like, his vision is getting a little bit hazy. And as Akane is just telling the story, she eventually looks up and makes direct eye contact with this guy, which really wakes him up and brings him back into the performance, right? And we see the reporter guys just like, oh man, look at that. There are no wrinkles. But when you get the feeling that she's talking to you, it heightens your concentration. Grabbing her audience with looks is a piece of cake for her, even in this large venue. The real challenge comes next. And of course, the reporter guy remembers this because whenever he went over to France and he saw Akane doing her performance there, Akane instantly recognized him from all the way in the back of the crowd. She's had 3 years of training. She knows what she is doing, right? As we pretty much understand the whole idea of, like, Tyson's like, hey, so, like, what's actually going on with your whole idea, Akane? And she points like, hey, Rakugo is the epitome of your selfishness. At least that's what I was sort of taught in this whole sort of ordeal. And just says, like, hey, but now I'm a Futatsume, and given that I'm aware of my audience, what I should focus on now is myself. It's the Okanban at the very top of their craft who are truly the epitome of selfishness. What Miku-chan said opened my eyes. Both precision performance that makes people laugh at the right time, and a satisfying performance that causes no laughter require the same thing. The power to assert your own will. And Akane is pretty much like, hey, so that's what I need to do. Tyson's like, so you're not molding yourself to the audience needs, but you're sort of overpowering them with, like, such show force that they have to appreciate it. Like, I get what you're saying, but how are you going to do that, Akane, right? And Akane just is like, whoa, well, I just have to be true to my roots. My goal is a performance like an amusement park. And that's where we end this chapter of Akane Banashi on getting me very intrigued for what is going to happen next. This is a very good 160th chapter of the series. I enjoyed it, right? Maybe not as better as, like, or maybe not as good as some other chapter number 160s. I'm actually going to go to my bookshelf, pull out a few volumes of, like, chapter number 160, and just sort of see, like, how does it stand up? You know, let's have a little bit of fun here. Alright, so we are now back here, and I went to my shelf and pulled off I pulled off 5 different series. All of them are volume 18, which is normally where the 160th chapter lies in manga. We're going to quickly push my computer back while I go through this totally erroneous statement, pretty much, but the first volume I picked up here is World Trigger, and looking at its looking at its chapter number 160, it's called Hyusei Part 4, and really it's just like where we get that big introduction to Hyusei, where he's sort of like going through and just showing how much he's sort of made of and like getting into the border exam, and it's just like a really cool thing, like, oh man, look, he's finally part of Tomakoma 2, it's just a really awesome thing. World Trigger, it had a very good chapter number 160, I definitely do enjoy it, right? And the next series that I grabbed is Martial Magic and Muscles, and chapter number 160 is actually 2 away from the final chapter, which is really funny because I actually have one of my old Weekly Shonen Jump videos where I talked about this chapter of Martial, or at least I believe I did. So it's pretty little bit of an interesting thing, like, yeah, it was a pretty good, it's like really wrapping up the series. It's where Mash does the continent kickflip pretty much, right? So it's like, oh man, yeah, pretty funny chapter of it, and I think it very much lies and falls in Akane Banashi's chapter number 100 160. You know, Dr. Stone volume or number 18 also has chapter number 160, and it's one of these things. Going through it, I think this is, yeah, it's a chapter right after Senku gets shot of all of these things. This is also probably massive spoilers that if you have not read any of these series, I am very much sorry, but go check out all of the series I'm talking about here. It's what you should be doing. Honestly, it's like, oh man, they're trying to heal Senku. Luna finally gets into all of her capable gal stuff. And also, like, hey, it looks like the tunnel is getting worked on, and Senku just says, like, hey, Dr. Chrome, you have to make the tunnel right now. Like, you're the scientist. Fine, chapter number 160, all things considered. Bleach, chapter number 160. Let me go see what was going on in this one. Oh, wow. Bleach, chapter number 160 is actually in another volume. Let me go grab that real quick. Alright, the right volume is now in my hands, and let's just see what chapter number 160 holds. Oh, I'm sorry. Kane Banashi, I don't think you're beating Bleach chapter number 160. This is where Ichigo is facing off against Byakuya in that big battle in the Soul Society. And yeah, this is where Byakuya comes through and uses Sinbon Zakura Kageura. And hey, the 1,000 cherry blossoms. Yeah, it's one of those awesome things. Ichigo also uses a Getsuga Tensho, rips up all the ground around him. Yeah, it's a very good moment in Bleach. Yeah, I don't think any of them are beating Bleach chapter 160. And what's going on in My Hero Academia chapter number 160? Let me just flip through volume number 18. Please tell me it's in here. Okay, it is in here. What is going on here? Let me flip to it. Oh, this is Ares' powers going out of control. The entire operation now seems to be over. And, oh, this is the chapter at the very end of the arc where Tomura comes, finds the truck that, Who's His Face was in, and the League of Villains pretty much comes through and, yeah, pretty much, like, wrecks the Sandman guy and destroys both of Overhaul's arms. Pretty good chapter number 160, especially beating off the arc. And I know all of these series I just talked about are like battle shonen action series. I guess Dr. Stone's the only one that doesn't really fall in line with that, but overall, let me just like go on the computer now. So we quickly did a little bit of a talk on Bleach, My Hero Academia, World Try, Mashal, and DRS, Dr. Stone, and of course, Kane Banashi. And let me just quickly rank to chapter number 160s. Bleach definitely had the best one. I think World Trigger probably had my second favorite one. My Hero had a very good one also. I'd probably put Akane Banashi right here, right under it. Mashal right underneath it. And Dr. Stone probably on the bottom. Even though I do think they were some good chapter number 160s. Akane Banashi, you did pretty good this week. Alright, with that big, long, massive rant out of the way, Elusive Samurai, chapter number 205. Big I wasted so much time talking about all of that stuff. What even happened in this chapter? Oh yes, Tokiyuki and Shizuku go to pretty much give Morinao's final words to, Takayuji. They do that. Takayuji just acts crazy as always, and the whole idea is like, hey, Shizuku has a plan for how Tokiyuki can end up beating Takayuji. Whoa, that's pretty neat. Yeah, not really too much to talk about this chapter. I'm going to tell you right now, it's going on the bottom. That's sort of how this works. Elusive Samurai, yeah, we're putting it right down there. Then the final chapter is Witch Watch number 204, and this is a comedy chapter all focused on Kanshi being a moron. Now, if you guys remember a long time in Witch Watch, we had this big chapter where Kanshi was sort of going through, and him and Morito went on to sort of double date with all of these various girls in like this mixer scenario, right? And pretty much, we see that Kanshi's like, hey Morito, do you want to go and do this with me? And Morito's like, I don't particularly want you to do this with me. But eventually Kanshi has this whole idea of like, hey, I asked Nico for some help with magic. She pretty much gave me these mints, and pretty much they'll make one of us a funny guy and make one of us a really straight, cool, and serious guy, right? And he's like, hey, Morito, you'll take the really good one that makes you a funny guy, and I'll take the one that makes me into the cool guy, right? Kanshi gets the mints mixed up as we pretty much go, and yes, they're all heading there to the place pretty much. We see that Morito and Kanshi both meet with him, and we see that Kanshi, this mint has pretty much given him the terrible ability of every line of something that he says is one sentence off. So pretty much whenever pretty much all of the girls are just like, oh man, like, hey, how are you guys doing, right? Kanshi's like, hey, I'm glad to be here with you, pretty much, right? That's what he means to say. But what he actually says is a sentence that he was saying as they were walking the doors, like, hey, look out, ladies, I'm getting good with one of you today, which is something that he meant to say to Morito earlier, right? Again, it's not something he wants, and I really love how the dialogue is sort of portrayed in this chapter, like, oh yes, Morito's this very funny guy, like, you're not, this very serious guy saying, like, all these cool things, like, man, I wish I could take this moment with you and close it into a bubble of eternity, right? And the two of them are sort of going back and forth, both looking like absolute morons, pretty much, right? But pretty much, Kanshi's dialogue is just one line off the entire time, which makes all of these moments just, like, so stupid, right? And it's one of these things where it works so well. Kento Shinohara wrote all this dialogue so perfectly and added in all the character it works so well, but it's one of these things where, like, yeah, Kanshi and Morito aren't doing very good whatsoever, and they're not doing very good. And we even see, like, till the very end of this chapter, Kanshi is just sort of, like, having all of these things going on. It's really funny. I don't know. It's just one of these things that's really hard to talk about, this chapter of Witch Watch, but I thought it was a very good chapter at the end of the day. We'll put it up around here. And with all that out of the way, let's finally go through and rank all of these chapters of manga this week. So, as I mentioned earlier, the Elusive Samurai, we're just going to be putting on the bottom. It definitely wasn't a series where I'm like, oh man, that was so crazy this week. Oh gosh, what do I want to do around this? So, my favorite chapter this week, I think it's got to go to Kagurabachi. I just really love that chapter, and as, like, I'm a Kagurabachi dude, I talk about this series on YouTube every week. Like, I've got to love it, you know what I'm saying? It's definitely going in my first place. We'll put Ichi the Witch next, and then right after Ichi the Witch, we're going to put one of my favorite 160th chapters ever, which was Akane Banashi. I don't know, I thought that was just a pretty good 160th chapter, you know? I mean, I think Bleach had it beat ever so slightly, and, like, My Heroes was also good, and, like, World Trigger had a good one, but, like, hey, it was a pretty middle-of-the-pack chapter number 160, like, what can I say, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah! Am I going to turn into the guy where it's like, every time we get a series of 160 chapters, I just have to now point it out, but, like, yeah, it's chapter number 160, you know? Maybe I'll even make, like, a YouTube video going, like, hey, every manga is chapter number 160, what's going on? It's like, it seems like a pretty good benchmark, like, I thought it was a pretty good chapter of Akane Banashi, what can I say? And this is where I'm starting to get to a little bit of, like, how do I want to rank the rest of these guys? Like, most of the rest of these guys I don't have, like, super strong feelings on, or I don't feel like they deserve to be in that top 3 or, like, those bottom places. But I honestly think I'm going to be giving it to Star of Beethoven next. Just, like, one of these chapters, like I said, didn't really fall in line for me. Sid Craft, C-R-A-F-T, put it right there above Star of Beethoven, which leaves us with Hematin, Embers, Order of the Flame, One Piece, Witch Watch, Ultimate Exodus Kyoshi, and Kill Blue. We'll put Ulti, Exero, Kyoshi next, and right above it we'll put Kill Blue. So that gets rid of those guys. Probably put Otter of the Flame next. Right above it, we'll put the Witch Watch chapter, followed by an EMB Embers, One Piece. Let me capitalize the piece in One Piece. And I guess we're putting Hema 10? But really, I don't know if I like Hema 10 where I put it, 4 from the top. Yeah, I'm not really jiving with that, you know? So we're going to be going through here. You know, I really think I like that Embers chapter, so we're going to be moving Hema 10 and One Piece over. Put Embers in Hematin's previous spot. Don't worry, I'll go through all these if you're listening to the audio version and say my full rankings once I get them all ranked. Put One Piece, and we're just going to switch Hematin and Embers rankings. I think I like that. Yeah, I think this is a fine enough ranking. Of course, we've got Kagurabachi at the top, followed by each of which Akane Banashi, good 160th chapter, Embers, One Piece, Hematin, Witch Watch, Odor of the Flame, Kill Blue, Ultimate Exodus Kyoshi, Sidcraft, Star of Beethoven, and the Elusive Samurai to round out the bottom of the list. And of course, my character of the week, guys, there's one person to give it to. I don't know, like, what you guys could be thinking. I've got to give it to Gokuraku from Ichi the Witch. Like, did you guys read the same chapter I did? Because if you guys did, you would know that's the only right answer right now. And that's what I'm saying. It was just such a good chapter, you know? But yeah, really, that's all the various ranking this week. I feel like this definitely became a longer video. We're actually still under an hour of recording time, which is absolutely insane, even with my stupid rant on chapter number 160s. Don't know how I managed to do this, but to make sure my recording time is underneath an hour, I've got 3 minutes to do the outro of this video, which normally doesn't take me that long. But of course, thank you guys so very much for watching this video thank you so very much for watching this video on Weekly Shonen Jump issue number 27 of 2025. This is a fine issue, definitely not one of my favorite issues of Jump either, but also, like, I can't really say too much, like, bad about it. I thought it was, like, all fine at the end of the day. And, yeah, if you guys like this series, I'll be back next week for issue number 28 of 2025. Of course, this issue is already out, but we'll get the video up soon, I promise, alright? I'm actually probably going to record that video after I read Jump, right after I finish doing this video, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, this was a very good week of Jump, and if you did enjoy it, you can find this show on any podcasting platform, and if you're listening on a podcasting platform, you can also find it on YouTube. Just type in Let's Talk About Weekly Shonen Jump, and you should find the icon and all of the various things on podcasting platforms. If you guys can't find it on any of these sites, just let me know in the comments of this video on YouTube, or go to the Discord, the community Discord, or just, like, find me on Twitter or something and let me know. I'll work on my best on getting it up available where anybody can get ready to sit down and listen to this podcast. And yeah, really, for all that out of the way, decent enough issue Jump. Like I said, it wasn't my favorite ever, but sort of is what it is. Let me know what you guys think about putting the chapter numbers in sort of the video here, so it's sort of like you guys can easily tell what chapter's what. I mean, I'll never be able to forget this chapter number 160 of Akane Banashi for the rest of my life. I mean, that's what I sort of know going on now here. It's like Zunin prized the first round. Akane's sort of like showing off her main deal. Like, sort of, yeah, it's sort of what's going on here. Yeah, pretty cool. I'll catch you later. I'll go by and do the ones. I know. Yeah, I don't know if that was audible, but yeah, goodbye, guys. Yeah, have a good one. Do I need to stall any longer? Do I need to, like, talk about, I don't know, Undead Unluck chapter number 160? What even other series do I have with 160 volumes? I guess Fire Force. Like, I don't know, like, goodbye.